Oh wow, people are here already. Can you hear me? I think the lighting's okay, my hair's not okay. Let me just shuffle up. Oh dear. 5 people. Can you just let me know that you can hear me? Hi, Laura Havoc. Laura Havoc, sorry. Cool, people are here. Well, I'll carry on then. But I did 7:15 just so I can wake up and make sure my equipment works. Equipment works. So you can hear me. Is anyone else willing to dive into the chat just to let me know that they actually exist? Yeah, I am on time, really. I did say 7:30. So yeah, 7:30, 10 minutes. Um, maybe more people will turn up. Hi, Russell. Hi, Helen. So where are people from then? I think, Russell, you're in the UK, aren't you? Sorry, I look really bad. I've just got up. Excuse me. Oh dear. Dear, oh dear. Brain, get into gear. UK, yeah. So early morning. And then the lighting's going to change quite quickly. So quite pleased with my setup. And yeah, daylight's going to arrive. So if I have to get off my chair to switch on, switch off lights, you know why. So yeah, good to see you. Um, so yeah, I scheduled for 7:15 because um, I learned from someone else who's far more successful at YouTube than I am that you should schedule in earlier than you intend to start so that you can check that it's all set up. So I think we're all set up. You can hear me, you can see me, sadly, and we're good to go. Um, and I'll wait to see at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, I am tired. In about 10 minutes, whether people turn up, because I did officially schedule it for 7:30. But in the meantime, I can just do my thing, talk and talk and talk, um, and find out how you are, what's going on. I can tell you a funny story in a moment. It's not that funny, but anyone else want to share anything? Funny stories? How you feeling? Quite unusual for me to ask that because normally I don't, because I'm not very good at the small talk stuff. But it's not small talk because I care. I do care. So tell me how you are because I want to know. I'm glad I'm doing this, if only for the reason that I've got out of bed at an appropriate time. Whereas what I would have done if I hadn't scheduled in the live stream is I would have stayed in bed till 5 to 9 and gone, oh no, I've got to log on to work 'cause I'm working from home today. So thank you for justifying my decision to get up at an appropriate time because I'm going to log on for my day job and not feel so guilty. Just recovering just recovering from a meltdown. I'm sorry to hear that. Um, well, but I'm pleased to hear it because you're recovering. I'm sorry to hear that you had a meltdown. Um, I hope the cause of the meltdown has been eliminated, or I hope it's manageable. Barely awake, still laying in bed, and yet, Russell, of all the things to do in the world, you've logged on early for this. And if I remember correctly, you logged on early for the previous one or the one before that. So thank you. Loyal, I was going to say fans. Fans sounds a bit icky. Loyal friends. Um, yeah. Does that sound icky as well? Friends, fans, in other words, it doesn't begin with F. People. You loyal people. You're logging on to listen to me witter on, even though you're knackered and you're in bed and you're recovering from a meltdown. So yeah, this is not very entertaining, is it? But it'll get better, I promise. And I'm looking around manically for my random US map, which is a little bit daft to keep reaching for that map because there are people. This, I mean, particularly for this one, because this one is was meant to be specifically for to make it easier for people in Australia um, and that part of the world to tune in. So I'll get the map if I feel like it. If someone says something about the US and I feel the urge to look at a US map. Um, Laro Havok, sorry, I can't pronounce your name very well. Was waiting in an office from the doc appointment, which was in hospital to use sensory stuff. Yeah, I'm doing that autistic thing where I'm trying to think of a similar experience that I've had to identify with the experience that you've had to hopefully make you feel better because then you're not so alone. So firstly, I'm sorry that that happened, and secondly, I can completely identify with that overwhelm because you're in an environment that's not suitable for you. Which ironically might have been a bit like the one I'm in now because I've got this sort of X-Files lamp looming down at me. If I'd had several of those in a sterile, cold environment like a hospital, and all the noise and the being ignored as well, which I really, really hate. Um, all of that combined, would I'd probably have a shutdown. I'd probably not want to talk for many hours. So sorry you've had that experience. Um, Mary, um, you're in the US with insomnia. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, listening to me for at least 5 minutes will soon cure you of your insomnia. You'll be dozing like a well-fed baby. So yeah, good idea to log on to this because yeah, as you can tell, the entertainment is a little bit scarce. So you'll be like, be like an ASMR, but without the whispering, tapping, and all the weird hand movements in the camera. And unless you want me to do that, go to sleep, Mary. What are you doing listening to this weird UK bloke? Um, Greetings from South Africa. Oh, incredible. Hi, Tom Tom. South Africa. Whereabouts in South Africa? So I just love geography. Um, Actually, a misspelling years ago. Oh, it was supposed to be Lord Havoc, but didn't notice typo till later. Okay, so it's now Loro Havoc. I get that. Um, we need to ban fluorescent lights. Yeah, I don't even know the definition of fluorescent. Does that just mean very bright? Yes. Um, in certain environments, perhaps. I I kind of like it for the purpose of this setup because it makes it look more interesting. I just noticed my loose strand of hair because I'm so vain. Um, it makes it more interesting, I think, for you to look at, and it highlights the bookcase. Um, but yeah, generally speaking, I do not like bright lights. Ugh. In fact, on Christmas Day, we did my family and I, my wife, two kids, and I did a quiz upstairs, and my father-in-law, who was unaware that we were playing this quiz, in trying to find the right light switch, he switched on the light that switched on another light in a bedroom that the four of us were in, uh, and I was in bed, um, playing participating in the quiz, and this light came on, and I went, "Ah, duvet over." And my wife said, "Well, what are you doing? It's just the light, stop being silly." And I stood my autistic ground. I said, "No, I do not like the light." So I played the rest of the quiz from underneath the duvet, despite my wife and children shaking their head at me, going, "God, you're such a misery." Of course, I couldn't see them shaking their head at me because I was under the duvet. But I was like, "No, I don't like that bright light. It's hurting my head." So I stood my artistic ground. Yeah, go me. Oh, it's 1 minute to 7:30, so there's gonna be loads of people coming into the chat now. Johannesburg, cool. I've never been to South Africa. I have a colleague from Zimbabwe, um, and I have worked with a South African colleague before in a previous job, but I've never actually been myself. I'd love to go. Um, so lights, yeah, the kind I use in stores, offices. Only recently learned seeing them constantly blink on and off is yeah, seeing them on yeah. So there's one thing having a light that's beaming into your soul. Um, there's another thing for a light to be intermittent, on off, on off, on off. It's irritating. Surely it's irritating for anyone, not just for autistic people. Um, but yeah, sensory sensory overload. I just to go back to the appointment situation, I think my autism assessment, which I don't think had an especially bright light, if any lights. It was a really dingy office. Um, but when I went for my autism assessment a year and a half ago, the reception area was really small. So I was like squeezed next to like two other people, and so I was already anxious. So why didn't they buy a bigger building just for me? And then on the radio was on, and hi Catherine. I don't know if you're acknowledging the volume levels are working, or you're just empathizing with the situation that I'm describing now. I can hear you. I'm glad you can hear me very much. Um, the person who did your assessment asked if I needed the lights turned down. Good for them. So, a round of applause to anyone conducting an autism assessment who asks the people turning up for their assessment whether they would like any adjustments to be made. That should be standard. Because I suppose it should be standard whenever you go for appointment. Although I get that if you're in an A&E, accident and emergency um, department, you're unlikely to have someone consistently ask you for reasonable adjustments to be made, given that there's lots of chaos going on. But if it's a gentle appointment situation, then asking questions that would lead to reasonable adjustments to be made on your behalf, well, I think that should be standard. But no, my assessment, what's out, I'm whinging, but I think you would expect me to whinge during these things, because they can be funny. Um, yeah, it was a small reception area, and the radio was on, which got on my nerves. Um, and people were called through who'd arrived after me, but they went to be seen for their appointment before me. No one had told me when my appointment would, well, when I'd be called through, where I was on the waiting list. It was just one thing after another, and I was just getting more and more stressed, which I did not need. Of all times, just before my autism assessment appointment, the appointment that I'd would have wanted 40 years previously. So there we are. There's a rant about my autism assessment, which, I know I've done a video about it, but I don't think I specifically spoke about the physical environment of of the building, but it was pretty horrible. You know, it wasn't someone's garage, it wasn't a bright kitchen, it was but that said, it was just not good enough. I did give feedback. I think it was ignored. I gave feedback about the website, which had the jigsaw puzzles. The not the not whole jigsaw puzzles, but jigsaw puzzle pieces. And I went, "To whom it may concern, this puzzle piece is associated with Autism Speaks, which is an organisation that the autistic community generally do not like very much because it suggests that autism is an illness that can be cured, blah, blah, blah." And a year later, I went on the website, I put it in my diary exactly a year later because I'm autistic like that. And the puzzle piece or pieces was still on the website. The website had not changed. So I'm guessing that the reception area in which I was so uncomfortable hasn't changed one bit either. Not good enough. Maybe I should get the train and go to the town where I had my assessment just so I can inspect the reception area. I'll go in with a clipboard and everything, pretend that I'm an official. And if someone says, "Who are you? What you doing here?" I'll be like, "Well, I'm autistic. I had my assessment here." So my assessment. So I feel entitled to come back 18 months later and inspect the building. And they'll be like, "Get out. Unless you've got an appointment, get out." I'd be interested to see what I'd say to that. Whether I'd stand my autistic ground or just leave. That was fun, wasn't it? That was 4 minutes of your life. Mary, you asleep yet? No, you've lolled a couple of minutes ago. Um, so Laura Havoc. I was diagnosed twice. I recently found out. I had one in 2000. When I told my mother, she told me I was actually already diagnosed when I was 8. But presumably that knowledge had been not been shared with you. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a revelation. Um, wow. Yeah, I met my mum for Christmas. Saw my mum yesterday. No, not yesterday, the day before. And they talked about the YouTube channel. And I didn't bring it up. I promise, I didn't bring it up. Didn't do my self-interested monologue like, "Hey, do you want to hear about my YouTube channel, my live streams?" And honestly, didn't bring it up. Someone else did. Um, and sorry about the car and the engine. Can you hear that? Um, it's morning rush hour in the UK, and yeah, we talked about the YouTube channel, but there was a that thought in my head like, God, do I talk about my assessment being delayed by 40 years because my parents didn't ask one for on my behalf all those years ago? But I didn't. I didn't spoil Christmas by saying, "Why didn't you get an assessment for me when I was a child? It would have prevented many years of self-loathing and confusion." I didn't. I didn't spoil Christmas by starting that conversation. I didn't bang the table in the pub. Said, "Why?" I just talked about my YouTube channel very politely and said, "Yep, it's tiny, like me, but I love it because it keeps me sane in an increasingly mad world." And people are here for this random live stream at silly o'clock in the UK, and it means a lot. Um, my wife has decided that I'm autistic now, and I'm very confused. I'm concerned it'll just come up. You're just weird. Don't know what to do. I've done. Hey, John. Yep, 42. Yay for 42-year-old Brits. Um, well, your wife has decided you're autistic. Well, firstly, no, you can't just decide that someone else is autistic, um, unless she's a qualified autism assessor. But and even then, you can't do it instantly. You'd have to, you know, have a discussion and go through previous life and do these exercises. And not every assessment is the same, obviously, because they're done by different people. If you've met one autism assessor, you've met one autism assessor. Um, but yeah, if the results come up as weird, well, look, if you go if you're worried about that, well, clearly the conclusion you're just weird is not going to be one of the assessment options. So don't worry about that. And if you're worried that the conclusion of an autism assessment might be you're not autistic, well, what's the worst that's happened? Um, but I would say that worrying whether your assessment might conclude that you're not autistic is a very common autistic worry. I did to an extent worry that the I'd go through all this rigmarole, the appointments, the questionnaires, and so on and so on, and then the conclusion would be you're not autistic. I did to an extent, but having researched it for 20 months beforehand, I was pretty certain that I'm autistic. So if you want if you want a final answer, and you think an assessment will help, make your life easier in terms of gaining acceptance from friends and family, maybe, or particularly in the workplace, having that formal assessment and them being more understanding about reasonable adjustments, then go to your GP and ask for an autism assessment. And if you're worried it's going to take a long time, go for the right to choose pathway, which is what I did for my ADHD assessment. I put it in the chat. This is for the UK, and it's probably a postcode lottery whereby the right to choose pathway will be more effective, quicker, depending on which county you live in. So if you're worried it's going to take years and years, like in Oxfordshire, there's an 18-year waiting list for autism assessments. 18 years. I waited 40 years for mine, unknowingly. 18 years. That's just mad. So I hope that you're not in Oxfordshire. If you are, I'm sorry, but then you've got right to choose, and not a lot of people know about that. And basically, it means that if you're worried that you're going to be waiting a long, long time for your autism assessment or ADHD, you can ask for a right to choose, go in that pathway, and then you'll have an option to be assessed by a private assessor at no extra cost. So it's kind of through public health, but not. It's weird. But that's what I did for my ADHD assessment. It took 4 months from request to assessment report. So there we are. Um, Laura, first diagnosed in 84. Wow. So support service were limited. Three brothers who were diagnosed ASD and the family didn't treat them well. Yeah. I mean, the 80s, I mean, autism awareness. And then Rain Man came out in 88. And then that made it harder, I would have thought. Because people are like, well, you're not like Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man, so can't be autistic. So gaining that acceptance, um, and people being nice to you, if you're autistic in the 80s, whether diagnosed or not, I imagine would have been incredibly hard. So I moan about not having an assessment much sooner. I might have been bullied if people had known that I'm autistic, but on balance, I would like to have known a lot sooner, not wait until I'm 40 to find out that I just have a different brain. Why am I struggling to be someone I'm not? Um, John, my pleasure. That's what I'm here for. If you put things in the chat, I'm going to try my absolute best to respond. And it's obviously far easier to do that when there are, I think, 13 people in the room. I'm not sure if that includes me. Doesn't matter. 13 people or 12 people have made the effort to be here, which I think is incredible. Thank you. Um, just making sure I catch up. Obviously, easier to catch up on comments because there aren't so many people here, so that's the upside of having such a cozy group. Um, yeah. So, did she tell you what made? Yeah, have you. Please communicate with each other in the chat as if you need my permission. Have your own conversations. Um, yeah. Did she tell you what made her? What made her think you might be autistic? That's. I know that's specifically for John to answer. Jess or Jessie. Sorry. Um, but I think we could perhaps use that as a general conversation point. What makes people think that we're autistic? Which is veering into what are the signs of autism, which I don't like that phrase. Signs like signs of a cold or signs of COVID. What are the traits of autism? Um, Talked about it a lot. I have a lot of autistic traits and scored 10 out of 10 on the Cambridge AQ test online. Uh, yeah, I think is that the Simon Baron Cohen one? He's based in Cambridge anyway, but I don't know if he designed that particular test. Um, so John, if you don't mind sharing, tell us what your autistic traits are or what some of them are. Um, Laura Havoc, I think about it if you can hear banging, that is not someone, well, I hope not, trying to hurriedly bury a dead body because that's what it sounds like from where I'm sitting now. I live next door to a pub, so I'm guessing it's something to do with beer barrels. Oh no, now they're making a quick getaway. Oh, please go away. Um, Someone knocked on my door when it was dark last night, just before 9 o'clock. I was very annoyed because I don't like anyone knocking on my door because this is my safe space and don't want to be pulled away from my safe space. So, it's like, who could be knocking on the door at this time? And it was a concerned woman asking if the car directly opposite my house was belonged to me, and that car that we were both looking at that point had been smashed into, although smashed is a bit over dramatic. Someone had gently collided with it and scraped the paintwork off the front. It was not my car, but I did appreciate her concern. And she got the registration plate of the person who caused the damage, so hopefully justice will be served. Oh, my coffee's gone cold, which might teach me for talking too much. Right. Um, Thinking back, when I found out, explained a lot how about I always found it odd my parents treated me slightly different than my brother and how other people treated their children. Once found it all made sense. Yeah. Um, yeah. I'm always very aware that how different I am to my brother. I've got how many brothers have I got? One, two, three. Got three brothers, but they're half brothers. It gets complicated. So the brother with whom I have the same parents, mum and dad. I mean, completely different to him. I've never got on with him. And mum asked me a couple of days ago, so has he contacted you over Christmas? And I was like, well, no. But in his defence, I've not contacted him either. Um, and through the lens of my autism assessment, my knowledge, not my assessment, just my own knowledge that I'm autistic, I've sort of, you know, thought again, reanalyzed previous experiences in my childhood and realized that I was treated differently. Um, and yeah, it sucks when it's in a negative way, um, and then not knowing why you're being treated differently, and then that feeds into the self-doubt and confusion that you already feel because you're autistic, so you're not the world's not designed with you in mind. So when people treat you differently and you don't know why, that adds another layer of sort of confusion. Well, it did for me anyway. Can you hear that irritating music just now? Someone tell me if you can hear that racket. This is I live next door to a busy road and a pub. It's not a very artistic house, is it? Surrounded by noise. What was I thinking? Um, think about when I found out explain yeah, seen that bit. Door knocking, yeah. Guess the big one for me is not being able to articulate how I'm feeling. Yeah, I get that, but I'm not sure why because I can't articulate how I'm feeling. Sorry, dad joke. Yeah, Alexa, find. I can't say this word. Alexi. I can't spell it. I'm gonna have to Google it. How do you say it? Quite ironic, really, given that it means that you struggle to say how you feel. The actual word itself, Alexithymia. Alexithymia. I put it in the chat, so it's the difficulty explaining or articulating how you feel. And I always used to think that I was good at that. I Well, I'm feeling sad today. I'm feeling sad today. And oh yeah, I'm feeling sad again because depression and well, for me anyway, depression, anxiety, and autism go hand in hand. Um, but actually, when I again reflected through my newfound knowledge that I'm autistic, I thought, yeah, actually, I have struggled to pin down what I'm feeling and why I'm feeling that way. And I just thought that was universal. I just thought everyone had that difficulty. And then did the deep dive into autism and realized that it's not universal. Some people are exceptionally good at saying, I am this level of sadness, I'm this level of happiness. And that's one thing. And then another thing, of course, is to how to respond to that emotion. Um, and maybe it's obvious that meltdowns and shutdowns are related to that because it's it's when the feeling is too much and you can't control it. Um, and so therefore meltdowns and shutdowns are perfectly legitimate. As distressing as they might be for you and other people around you, it is a natural reaction to being overwhelmed. Um, so just scroll up. Good. The chats are coming. Keep it coming. This is going to be quite a short. I can't believe I'm saying this. If you'd asked me whether I might do an hour and a half live stream, I'd be like, it's not even going to last 10 minutes because no one's going to turn up. But the last one was 3 hours, 40 minutes. And I was just getting started. I had so much fun. I'm having so much fun now. I hope you are as well. Although, Mary, I do hope you're asleep. I hope I've cured your insomnia. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go in an hour. Um, sorry if that disappoints you, because I need to log on for work. But I am going to be on partly to make up for that. I'm going to be on again at 7 p.m. UK time tonight, which is not convenient for people in Australia and other parts of the world, but I can't please everyone. Anyway, back to the chat. Keep the comments coming. So Russell had the self-realization when I was 42. I'm now come up to 58 in a few weeks. Wow. So 16 years ago. Cool. Still haven't got round to getting an official assessment. Yeah, and that's also cool. Self-recognition is absolutely valid. Not least because you could be waiting a very long time for an official autism assessment, especially if you're in Oxfordshire, England. 18 years. It's mad. Um, and also, I think it's quite daunting, isn't it? Going for an assessment because it's all about your identity. Like, that having an official report, that you are autistic. And in my case, my report was dreadful. It made me feel terrible because it's very deficit focused. Like He's not very good at this, he's not very good at that. So I think that is enough to put off someone from having an autism assessment, but lots of people have a good autism assessment, a very validating report. So don't go on my experience, do listen to other autistic voices. And if you need that official report, because as I said a few minutes ago, to gain acceptance and to help you make the case for adjustments so that you have a more comfortable, more productive working life and to life in general, then definitely go for, ask for an assessment. But there are all sorts of factors. I mean, we're lucky in the UK. We can, so far, we can currently ask for an assessment, and beyond our taxes, it won't cost us anything. But I appreciate in other countries it's not as straightforward as that. Um, I did see a comment in one of my live streams or at someone else's live stream because I'm done that autism thing. I'm now fixated on live streams. So I looked at Dana Anderson. So thank you to whoever recommended Dana Anderson. She's amazing. A UK YouTuber, autistic AF, creative autistic. So Lizzie, also in the UK. Paul, adult with autism. Someone in one of those live streams said that autism services in Australia are pretty good. So I'd be interested to hear from anyone else whether that is the case or whether that's just someone's opinion. Um, because in the UK, whilst the assessments are available, there's a long waiting time, and the support does seem to be lacking for late diagnosed autistic adults. Right, let's get back to the chat. I realised, sorry, just going. Yeah, I can tell when I'm tired, and that's about it. Yeah, me too, John. I'm like, yeah, I'm tired. I'm bothered. Beyond that, just can't pin it down. Or maybe there's something wrong. Yeah. I realised they're making accommodation for me and remembering then having an argument with my teacher who was telling them my stimming in class was distracting. My father told him you would not tell. Right. Yeah. But again, stimming is like a meltdown or shutdown because it's about self-regulation, isn't it? So uh, people think without understanding autism, people will assume that you're stimming or having a meltdown or shutdown for attention or just to distract people because you feel like it. It's like unless you have the knowledge of autism, you'll make that assumption. Um, and we're getting there, you know. But there's still, I keep reading about schools, individual teachers, parents, um, believing that um, certain autistic traits are just behaviors that people perform because they feel like it, because they just want the attention. It couldn't be further from the truth because generally we don't want the attention. We just want to cope in a chaotic world, and stimming is one way of helping us cope. And I'm saying all this as a 42-year-old man having, been obsessed with autism for the last almost 3 years. If I was having this conversation as an 18-year-old, I'd be like, "What's stimming? What are you playing at? Why are you messing about in class?" So I do have some empathy for people who don't appreciate stimming and meltdowns and shutdowns and other autistic traits because if you don't know, you don't know. But again, that's one reason why I'm doing the YouTube channel to help increase understanding. Because the more people speaking up for autistic people, the better, in my view. Um, okay, you've not cured it, unfortunately. I'm not quite sure what Mary's comment relates to. Not cured it. I just got here. Richard, Australia. So I almost did the bad Pommy version of an Australian accent. I apologise. Hello. Yeah, I'm amazed there are 17 people here. Um, I'm going to go on for another 50 odd minutes because I've got a clock on at work. Yeah, this one was specifically for people in that part of the world. Um, but don't get me wrong, if you're not from Australia, clearly we've demonstrated that because people from South Africa and the UK and the US, then please stick around. I just thought I'd try and make it a little bit easier for people in a different part of the world to turn up to one of my really entertaining live streams. Um, Johns, you've asked me a question there. Very helpfully, it's highlighted my pseudonym, Autistic Not Alien, so it makes it easier for me to find. As someone who's done this, what have you found has been helped you in day-to-day life because you know you have autism? Special trick or something with talking to people? Well, firstly, I'm going to be really irritating and be the autistic pedant that I am and say I don't consider myself to have autism. Um, I am autistic, but it is a personal preference. You know, lots of autistic people say I'm a person with autism. I just personally think saying that makes it sound like autism is like an add-on, something additional, whereas actually autism is that squishy thing in my skull. It's not an add-on. It is me. It's my character. It's my personality. So I am autistic. And Jodie Hare, in her book "Autism is Not a Disease," says she's not a lesbian. Sorry, she is a lesbian. She's not a person with lesbianism. She is a I am a lesbian, not me, her. Uh, I am not a person with lesbianism. So by definition, she is autistic, not a person with autism. But again, personal preference. I just think that's a really effective way of describing that preference. Anyway, to answer your question, how do I cope as an autistic person? Um, that's a really good question. How do I cope? Well, I talked about that quiz, that Christmas quiz, when my father-in-law switched on that light and I cowered underneath the duvet. Um, I think one way of coping is telling people, um, you know, like I'm autistic. Can you not do this? But actually, that's not especially helpful answer because I would only feel comfortable doing that within my, family, and even then it'd be pretty awkward. So what do I do to cope? You know what? Honestly, managing my time so that I can do something like this, yeah, or make a video, or write a song, or something fight making time for something creative that I know I'm going to look forward to. Um, Christmas with my relatives was quite hard for me because I wasn't doing anything productive. It's like lots and lots of small talk. And even then, I couldn't resist getting an atlas at my grand's house and spending about 2 hours, you know, reading, well, just gawping at maps. Um, so yeah, that's a really terrible answer. You've got me thinking there, John. I think making time for yourself, because otherwise the world is just too overwhelming. Um, I think if it's in the moment, you can't just look forward to that time in your diary when you might be doing something you want to do. Then, noise cancelling headphones, playing music, um, and stimming, which playing music can be a form of stimming. It is for me. I play the same song on repeat. When I'm at work, listening to ASMR whilst doing the day job, you know, something going on that drowns out the sound. That can be a way of coping with day-to-day life. Um, but yeah, I'd stick to my original answer. For me, generally, it's about setting aside time so I can do something like I'm doing now. because it's really self-regulating for me to be able to do this. If you took away my laptop and my internet connection, I'm not going to cope very well. Initially, I'd have to come up with something else. Yeah. So I hope they answered your question, John. I'm sorry about the pedantry, but I am autistic. I like to be accurate in terms of what I consider to be accurate. Russell, 18-year wait would take me up to 76. I'm in Hertfordshire, not far from me. Don't know if the NHS wait is that long here. Um, yeah, I hope not. But 18 years is not good. In Australia, the site I've booked has told me it's $1,200. Just had to wait 4 months for it. Well, good luck, Richard. Good luck for your assessment. Um, I hope I hope it helps. Hope, sounds really glib, but I really do. Mine was I associate an assessment with um, bad times for me because it wasn't validating. But as I have said, plenty of people have an autism assessment, and it's great. So good luck. Uh, Married in the US took 6 months. Sorry, I'm way behind the chat. I'll hurry up now. Um, da, da, da. 4 to 6 year wait in the US. Blimey, that's mad. Yeah, so good luck, Richard. Assessment booked in February. Um, Good for children, not adults in Australia. Yeah, but then a lot of people say in the UK it's not particularly good for children. Um, but again, depends where you are in the UK. 6 months, yeah. Lucky Mary, 6 months in the US for an assessment. Groovy Chicky made it. Yes, good day. Sorry it took so long to acknowledge your presence in the chat room. Cool. Groovy Chicky, whose real name I either don't know or I've forgotten. Um, she's he has been a stalwart of the adult that's Paul's channel of Autistic Not Alien. So thank you for your support. Yeah, Russell, C right to choose. Don't know what the right thing to say was. I think John, don't worry about it. Honestly, it's personal preference. You know, Paul at Adult with Autism has done a whole video, I think, on the difference. It's cool. He's adult with autism, and I love his channel. I've met Paul. He's amazing. So yeah, it's just my preference. Don't feel bad about it. It's just a preference. Plenty of people prefer to be known as an adult with autism. So it's cool. We're all entitled to our opinions. So yeah, don't worry about it. Um, yeah, I mean, if someone says, "Oh, Neil, he's got autism," I'm not going to go, "Oh, get it right." I just, it's just a preference. Although a relative was talking about someone with severe autism um, a couple of days ago, and that was, like the whole nails down the blackboard, chalkboard. I was like, "Ugh, severe autism." It's like, no, it's all. It's like I'm probably going to do a video about this, just about this to this point. It's like, so I'm what some people call mildly autistic. Mm, no, I'm very autistic. I am autistic, just like the so-called severely autistic person is. It's just autistic. Yeah, and people are confusing um, autism and learning disabilities, difficulties with severe autism, and it's just the way that it was framed. Like autistic people are like a different species. I didn't like it. Not a different species. Just have different brains. We're human beings, equally as valid as neurotypical people. And if you want to be known as someone with autism or an autistic person, it's still it's the same thing. Yeah. The important thing is the recognition of autism. The labels are, as Paul very articulately explains, the labels are down the priority list. Um, let's be accurate. Yeah. Cool, John. Yeah. Accuracy is so underrated. People, in my experience, most people just seem to be cool with half-done jobs and vagueness, and I just can't accept it. Like, if there is a clear answer to be found, if there's a good job to be done, then let's aim for that. You know, not just, well, we could have done it, we could have found the answer, we could have been accurate, but hey, let's just roll with it. I'm like, no. And only, in my 40s have I realized that that's an autistic trait. I like clarity. Vagueness is my enemy because vagueness is uncertainty, and uncertainty is anxiety, and anxiety is pain. So why would I want to be in pain? So trace it back, be accurate as you can be. Mm, certainty, be as certain as you can be, because for an autistic person, lack of certainty is what I've just said. Ultimately, is pain. You don't want to inflict pain upon people unless you're a meanie, a sociopath, in which case you'll take pleasure from people's pain. But generally, most people, they don't want to willingly hurt people. But a lack of certainty and vagueness for an autistic person, I contend, is a source of pain. So be as sure as you can. Um, right, let's catch up. By the way, YouTube recommended your channel to me. I found your dry humor to be very funny. Thank you, John. Yeah, my humor is so dry it makes the Sahara Desert seem flooded. Is that something you put on a poster, like a Stuart Lee comedy poster? Um, Thank you. I can't believe that YouTube would recommend the channel, but I guess after a year of making silly videos, the algorithm, the mystical YouTube algorithm, will eventually sweep up your tiny YouTube channel and add it to the current of vastly more popular, I'm not bitter about it, YouTube channels. And they talk about, if you, and I have fallen into this trap of watching YouTube channels, how to grow your YouTube channel and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know why I bother because I start listening to them like, you know, I feel, shallow for watching these videos. And secondly, a lot of it's just obvious stuff, like, use keywords. And I'm reluctant to do that because then you're skewing the YouTube video for likes instead of sticking to what you want to make. So there's loads of my videos. The keyword thing is non-existent, but I don't care. And so when I find out that people have found my channel because it's been recommended, I'm a bit confused by that because I just make these very silly videos that don't have the keywords that all the big channels have. That makes sense? But I'm simplifying it because there's loads of things that you should do or could do to be a successful YouTuber, and I haven't figured them out yet. But I kind of like the fact, the idea that I have a channel that's really small because, for one thing, it makes this just about manageable. Can you imagine if 500 people here be like, um, and I can just about keep up with the comments to the videos. Um, which means a lot to me because I hate missing comments. There's one comment. There's a guy called Pete, and I haven't responded to his comment, but I can't find it now. That upsets me because I'll be like, "Oh, no, he'll think that I'm being arrogant by not responding." So, one good thing about having a small YouTube channel is you can keep up with the comments because responding to the comments is as important as making the videos in the first place, in my view. Um, yeah, I need my internet showing my computer to my garage right now. Cool. That sounds like a man cave. That's not a sexist thing to say. I hope not. You know, man cave? Or just a safe space. Let's just be neutral about it. A safe space. A garage with computers in it sounds like a really cool, safe space. Agree with you. My daughter got her assessments $1,800 or over 3,000 to achieve the NDIS. Wow. So you have to pay to then receive the disability insurance. Wow. That doesn't sound ideal. What's that? I don't know. Well, I don't know what $1,800 is in pounds, but it's a lot. I can tell. I can tell it's a lot. I learned about you from Autistic AF. Someone mentioned you. Cool. Lord Havoc. That's cool. Yeah. I mean, I dipped into the live streams um because it was Christmas and I didn't have to go to work, and I was actually on my YouTube channel, and I've subscribed to so many channels. I could see that people were live because there's that aerial sort of vibrating aerial icon. So I was like, oh, click on that. It's like, oh wow, I'm in Autistic AF's live stream chat board. So it's a happy accident, really. Question from Richard Mormson. Check is combo of chronic fatigue and autism. Sorry, this is probably my live streams. I get too enthusiastic about a particular point, and then I have to scroll back up. Dana Anderson. I dipped into a couple of her live streams. I'm going to put a name in the chat board. She was recommended to me, and she was a revelation to me. Because she's so honest and unfiltered. So go and watch Dana Anderson. She was brilliant at managing the chat board. I haven't managed it yet. Is it combo chronic fatigue and autism a thing, or would it just be autism? Uh, well, I think it's important to say I'm not a doctor, so I can't really diagnose. Certainly not having had a conversation and analysing symptoms or traits or whatever the correct term might be. Um, all I can really say is that autism burnout is a thing. So chronic fatigue might well be burnout. Um, and burnout is absolutely associated with autism because it's when the demands of life exceed your autistic capacity to deal with them. And with hindsight, I can tell that burnout led to my diagnosis because I wasn't coping with life and I was in a very, very bad way. I phoned a crisis line and they suggested that I might be autistic. And then the rest is history. Here I am. So I'm not a doctor, but I would say that burnout and autism are sadly very much connected, and chronic fatigue might be burnout, but it might not. So I would urge you to go and speak with someone who is much more qualified than I am. So hopefully that is helpful. Parents of children feel they get something out of it, but it looks scary to me. I think Damien, sorry, that you're referring to autism support or maybe the assessment. Um, the GNU tool so much. I'm not sure what GNU tools are or new tools are. I also really enjoy Stuart Lee. Yes, if you're going to be part of my live streams or watch my YouTube videos, it's mandatory that you have to love Stuart Lee. There'd be no discussion about that. For those not familiar with Stuart Lee, he is a UK-based comedian, been doing stand-up comedy for 35 years and recently found out that he's autistic in his 50s. And he alludes to this, um, heavily alludes to this in his most recent stand-up routine called Basic Lee. So check it out. It's on YouTube. Um, I also have cognitive disabilities from a bacterial infection in my brain shortly after birth, so I can tell what's the autism. Okay, that's fair enough. Again, I'm not qualified. I can only read such comments and empathise with um, struggles, and if I'm honest, be grateful for the knowledge. I just love having the knowledge, finding out about other people's experiences, because it's not it's not just autism. It's, as Laura Havoc has just said, it's another condition, um, and autism often goes hand in hand with other conditions, other challenges. Certainly for myself, depression and anxiety. Laura Havoc, again, God, you've been very productive, helpful in terms of me knowing what to talk about. One person I watch has 5,000 plus viewers on streams. I don't know how he keeps up with the chat. 5,000 plus. God, you must be super famous in the internet world to have 5,000 people willing to watch your live stream. Crikey. Um, I mean, I'm barely managing contributions from up to 18 people. Apologies for that. And if I've missed a comment and you want me to acknowledge it, please do, say, "Oi, Neil," or just repeat it, type it again, and I'll get to it. I promise. Hi, Helen. Good morning. Um, Fiddlestick, are you also an ADHD? If so, how to interact with your autistic side? Yeah, this is a really brilliant question. I've been asked it before, and I probably gave a terrible answer. I am an ADHD. I'm an ADHD, autistic ADHD. So I had my autism assessment in August 2023, and my ADHD assessment January 2024. And yeah, how does it interact? So my autistic brain wants comfort, peace and quiet, control over my day, my environment. Um, wants consistency, wants accuracy, logic. The ADHD part of my brain wants novelty all the time. Like, oh, I could write a song about such and such. Oh, that links to that. Um, and then I'll spend 10 minutes thinking about something that has no relevance. Um, the ADHD is like the engine to get things done, like the YouTube channel. It's like, oh, I can make a video and spend like an hour on the thumbnail and oh, I wonder what someone else is doing for their YouTube. Oh, I'll check the football results at the same time. Oh, I've got to make sure I write my emails tonight. The ADHD is the chaos and the engine. It's really difficult to. It's very. I take each day as it comes because it's hard, and it's getting harder because as I get older, I've become more and more aware of my mortality. And I spoke about this in a way with Orion Kelly about, don't mind the idea of dying because I'd be quite grateful for the rest. And that sounds flippant, but it's true. I'm knackered. I'm tired of being tired. But I am bothered about getting old. Because I'm not as able to do a day job or even go for a run, as well as I used to be able to do quite recently. I've noticed the last year or so. Um, And but having an ADHD brain where I'm always wanting to do things makes that difficult because my body's more inclined to say, "No, don't do that." So it's a mess really. Autism, consistency, logic, um, peace and quiet, ADHD, frantically making connections with, making patterns out of things that aren't related, wanting to do loads of projects, YouTube, songs, poetry, music reviews. Um, I'm meant to be trying to break a world record next year for the fastest half marathon run by a lumberjack. Um, Someone's dared me to do that next September. You know, I s- I didn't even say yes, but it's yeah. Apparently, I did. Um, Always wanting to do stuff and yet wanting peace and quiet at the same time, and going through a midlife crisis, burnout. It's a mess. So I take each day as it comes. I look forward to a live stream. You know, I Yeah, generally it revolves around YouTube these days. Um, so yeah, but we're all different. We all have different coping mechanisms. Maybe you're like me, you go onto the internet. Maybe I was going to say make jigsaw puzzles, but then that has a link with Autism Speaks. Oh, sorry, I was looking away because there is a jigsaw puzzle on the floor. My kids completed it over Christmas. Um, so that was a long answer, as you would have predicted. Oh, thank you, Mark. Love your work. I think that's for me. I'll take that. Um, Helpful answer. I think that's for me as well. Cheers, Richard. John, didn't know Lee discovered he was autistic. Yeah, really recent. Um, so yeah, Stuart Lee is autistic, and makes a lot of sense. I think um, he says himself, he gets to um, talk at people, monologue for an hour and a half, 2 hours about things that he's interested in. That's literally the definition of a stand-up comedian. It also seems to be the definition of an autistic person. So it's perfect for Stuart Lee, and he makes all these wonderful connections. ADHD potential, but again, not for me to diagnose. The monotone. So Richard. I'm looking at Richard's name. Stuart Lee. Um, it's quite a monotonous voice. Um, unless he does a silly impression, of course. Um, yeah. So in his 50s, how old are you now? He's in his mid 50s. So he's just found out. Eye contact. He talks about eye contact in basically. Um, he recalls a colleague of his, a friend of his, berating him for not giving eye contact. So Stuart Lee ticks so many autistic boxes. Richard will also have Klinefelter syndrome, extra chromosome, 1 in 1,000 men. Apparently, a high percentage of those of us with KS also have autism. Oh, I'm going to have to write that down. I'm interested in that. Klinefelter. Wow. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Um, John, I get the multi-personal project thing. I have loads of stuff on the go all the time. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I just it just gives me purpose. I've never been interested in having a career, and I've never had a career because for me, work has always been a case of a means to an end, a means to do the things that I see value in. So when people would, you know, play those office games, and in order to get that promotion or be considered for a job, I'd never had any interest in it because being at work was taking me away from all the projects that I really wanted to do. Um, so, for example, with my autistic best friend Alex, um, we ran a record label. Now it was a failure. but it was great fun, and I don't regret it at all. Because because we got to see some great bands and release a few records and make no money out of it. But and then it was on to something else. Now currently it's a YouTube channel, and I hope that it'll be a long-term project, but not least because it seems that it's been helpful to people, and that means the world to me. Um, but yeah, projects that it gives me purpose. I like aiming to achieve something. Like running is great for me because well, particularly when I was younger, when I was fitter and more mobile, it was very clear that if you ran a lot, you would get quicker, and it was easy to gauge how successful you were or how much better I was becoming. Um, so that appealed to me. And yeah, projects, purpose. We all want a purpose, don't we? It's just that mine are, silly projects, but they mean a lot to me. I agree with Chicky. I hear you. I've had to reduce my hours at work only 14 so I should retire. Sorry, Belinda. Excuse me, Belinda. Yeah, I I can't see myself enjoying retirement in the UK. Um, I mean, I pay into a pension, but I don't know why, because I don't think I'll ever get round to claiming it back because the government, whichever government is in power, it seems to be a case of making it more and more difficult for people to be retired, like raising the retirement age and pensions being dreadful in comparison to other countries. And I know lots of countries have it worse off than the UK. I get that, but it's just so nakedly capitalist. People aren't looked after as well as they could be. Um, and I think, the way things are going, by the time I'm retirement age, 60s or 70s, um, the world's gonna be even more of a bin fire than it already is. So that's positive. So yeah, I try not to think about retirement too much. It gets me down. Um, but yeah, I am knackered, and I dearly wish I didn't have to work because work is the hardest thing for me. I've noticed as I get older, the ADHD takes over, my life gets more chaotic in my head. I can't settle on anything. Helen, I completely identify with that. I think the ADHD part of my brain has. I don't know whether it's the awareness that I am an ADHDer, but it's not getting easier to manage. I can't figure it out. It's like, well, surely because now I know that I've got an ADHD brain, I should be able to put things in place to manage it. But it's like the opposite. It's like, well, I've got an ADHD brain, so now I've got license to go mad and do loads of things when really I should be focusing on that one thing that pays my bills. It's like, I have tried to communicate this to my employer, um, and to be fair to them, they have heard me out. They have been sympathetic, but still, unless you're living it, it's very difficult to understand the challenges of an ADHD brain and, of course, an autistic brain. But for me, the ADHD is the challenge. Autism is like it's like like the sleeping relative at Christmas, in the chair. Seen that Matt LeBlanc meme? Matt LeBlanc from Friends, Joey, and there's a picture of him at a Friends reunion from a couple of years ago, and he's sitting in a chair. I think his arms folded like that, and someone says that's every single Irish uncle, stereotype. That relative sitting in the corner just taking things in. That's my autism. My ADHD, to use another stereotype, is the excitable teenager who thinks they can take on the world. So that's my brain with a random metaphor of old uncle versus excitable teenager. Oh, sorry, John. I think I've missed you there. Work starts at 9. Yeah, I've got to go very soon. Thank you very much for turning up and sharing, and hopefully see you again. Um, so I'm playing catch up as always. Yeah, identified with Helen there. I watch a lot of YouTube while in the kitchen, helps to keep me on one task. Well, I just had to look up Stuart Lee. I'm terrible with it. I've never heard of him. Well, what? Please, if I've achieved one thing today, it's encouraging Helen to watch Stuart Lee. That is a massive win. Nice. I'm a Stuart Lee evangelist, which is an ironic thing to say if you know anything about Stuart Lee and his previous life as a writer of the Jerry Springer, the musical. Um, Check out Stuart Lee, everyone. Um, John loved running and cycling. Yeah, good man. Description of autism, Russell. Autism ADHD resonates. Well, I've done ADHD test to show me as positive as the ASD test. That may be that the ASD somewhat tempers the ADHD. Yeah, so I don't know what the percentage is in terms of comorbidities, or I prefer co-occurring conditions. Comorbidity sounds really unpleasant, but it's something like 80% of autistic people have another neurological condition. I probably got that completely wrong, but it's common. Now, if you're autistic, it's very possible that you might have another condition. And in my case, those conditions, those brain types are competing constantly. And it's frustrating. It's not so frustrating when I don't have to go to work because, say, Christmas before I went to see relatives, I was master of my own destiny. I had like a whole day to fill. That's cool because I'd be like, well, I spend that hour just looking at the football results. I spend that hour making a thumbnail for my next YouTube video. I spend that hour responding to YouTube comments. Oh, I'll go for a run. Oh, I'll go for a run now. I'll get back. I'll be like, oh, I'll have a cup of coffee. Why not? And so on and so on. Yeah, it's fine when I'm not working. ADHD, autistic brain, they just polite competition. I get tugged that way, tugged that way. But when I have to work, 8 hours for someone else and meet their demands, that goes, you don't want to do that. You want to go on YouTube. You want to go on Wikipedia. You want to go for a run now. Go for a run now. It's 10:30 in the morning. It doesn't matter. Go for a run now. And so on and so on. Do everything but what I'm meant to be doing. So frustrating and has made work incredibly hard the last 2 years, as well as the excessive demands, which would be difficult to deal with even if I didn't have an ADHD brain. I'm not after your sympathy, by the way. I'm just sharing. It might make you feel better about your own circumstances. It might not. You might not relate at all, but for what it's worth, that's my situation. I mean, talking of which, I'm going to have to go in, well, 13 minutes really. I'm going to have to log on after 9 days off work and brace myself. Do you feel like your ADHD has a static ratio of autism, ADHD, or does that ratio shift depending on the context? Good question, Findlestick. Um, yeah, yeah, it does. What I've just described about work, then the ratio shifts so that the ADHD becomes more dominant. Yeah, work. And then when I'm not working, they're like more like 50-50. Yeah, good question. Does the ratio shift? Yes, it does, in my case. Whether that's an actual thing, I don't know, but it feels like the ratio shifts depending on the context, work or not working. Mum still works part-time now, she's 80 next year. Cool. But then if it's a choice rather than you have to work to survive, I think that's different. I think plenty of people who are in retirement age choose to do something to be active, be useful, to to do something they enjoy, which happens to be considered work at the same time. Um, Good for her. I mean, I think I'll always be busy because my ADHD brain. Even if my body is saying no, my brain's going to say, "Got to be productive." And if that means I'm going to pick a really stereotypical example, if that means serving tea and coffee and biscuits at the local church, then so be it, because that still has as a benefit is making people happy and it's keeping me busy. I'll be like Helen's mum. I'm sure of that, unless my body completely says no. Pension Australia, I'm too exhausted to didn't have to work. Oh, sorry, Groovy Chica. Sorry, Belinda. Goodbye if you've not already gone. Yeah, you have to go to work. Yeah, it sucks. 4-day week, that's what we need in the UK and everywhere. And then a 3-day week, then a 2-day week, and so on. Until we all live in a happy paradise of idleness. So we can do live streams all day. Don't ask me about the detail about how it will work, but that's the utopia that I'll keep dreaming of. Um, yeah, overlap is quite high. Autism, ADHD, definitely worth looking into. I had no idea, so I got my autism assessment diagnosis. Sorry, um, and yeah, I think while I was waiting for my autism diagnosis, my report, I think only at that point, late 2023, did I start reading about ADHD, or maybe was it mid 2023, and then realised that it's highly likely that I'm an ADHDer as well. So it's really recent for me. This whole idea of autism ADHD co-occurring, I'm still learning a lot about it. Hello, Stuart Lee today. Oh, please, please do. He's hilarious, and he'll make you feel less alone. Um, Politically, I think, but I think generally about life, he's very funny. He's got a big heart. Um, yeah, work always gets in the way. Mother is 78, works part-time because she got bored after retirement. Yeah, I mean, is it work if you enjoy it? Isn't that the cliched question? If you're enjoying it, is it work? She has to work to survive. She can't afford to retire. She likes to be busy, but she not like not like to have to work now. Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on the work situation. Um, but you get used to a sort of standard of living, don't you? It's like you might be doing something that you don't like doing, but you do like having a certain amount of money. And I'm in that situation. I'm like, I know what I've got coming in. I'm used to that. So yeah, but I also want to be independent and free to do what I want to do. But sadly, making YouTube videos and doing live streams in my situation um, doesn't translate into a massive bank account. Not that that's a way of trying to get you to give me sort of virtual donations, which I think is a thing. Can you do that? Can you just go ping $50, and then it just lands in my account? And then if 5,000 of you do that, then I can hand in my notice. So do consider it. I'm joking, because maybe you're as skint as I am. Well, I'm not skint. That's the thing. I'm not skint. That's what I'm saying. I'm not skint. Go me. Um, but I am very tired, and I've got to go in 6 minutes. Log on and be interested in things that I'm not truly interested in for 8 hours, 5 days a week, while this ADHD brain wants to do the autism videos and not constantly feel jealous of people who are able to sit in their homes and talk to camera and get paid for it. So yeah, if someone could tell me how Megan at I'm Autistic, so now what has managed to gain such a following in such a short period of time, please let me know. Because someone in the previous live stream or the one before that, um, on my channel, said that she was hiring for an editor through Discord. That's just insane. Like hiring staff just for a YouTube channel. But I completely see, having said what I've just said, I can completely understand why she would need one, because she's so productive. Her videos are really long, and creative. They're great. I'm not dissing her at all. I'm just being very jealous of her, because she constantly producing high quality videos about autism. Clearly not a one person operation, and indeed that is evidenced by the fact that she's hiring for an editor, but she only set up a channel just over a year ago. So that is just amazing to me, and I'm so jealous and wish I could do that. But then the downside of that would be I wouldn't have cozy live streams like this, where I could try to make sure that I've responded to everyone, because that, as I've already said, means a lot. I don't like to leave people hanging. Um, so yeah, pros and cons. Um, yeah, to not have to work, well, to not have to work for someone else is something I think about to the point of getting very upset about. Um, See if it'll stick. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm petering out as I brace myself for the email onslaught. Super chat button isn't there, I guess, because you're not monetized yet. Oh, is that what it is? Super chat button. Dink, and then money just lands into the person's account. I didn't know that. Cheers, Russell. Because I'm not monetized yet. How horribly mercantile is that? But that's how it works, isn't it? 4,000 hours and 4,000 hours of watch time, and then YouTube goes, "Aha, you're serious about this." So if you are thinking about doing YouTube, or you're already doing YouTube, you might not know that you don't you won't earn any money through YouTube unless collectively people have watched your videos for 4,000 hours. I know about that, but again, it's not something that I'm building the videos around. I just make the videos, do the live streams, and then see what happens. I mean, I didn't even know that the live streams contributed towards the 4,000 hours until I'd done the first live stream and someone said, "Oh yeah, by the way," it's like, "Oh, does it count?" Great, but that wasn't the purpose at all. Um, I hope your day's bearable now at the 8 hours. Well, partly as a way to drag me through the 8 hours, I've scheduled in another live stream for 7 p.m. UK time. I've just noticed how bad my hair is. How vain. Yeah, 7 p.m. UK time. scheduled in another live stream, and yeah, I'll probably witter on about work, but thinking back to the previous 8 hours, and yeah, if you want to listen to that, then you know where I'll be. Um, yeah, it'll be all right. First day back. People go easy on your first day back, especially after Christmas. But yeah, they're not expecting me to be manically beavering away, doing lots of productive things. It's the first day back. Cut me a bit of slack. Yeah, if I drift away, start writing a YouTube video in my head, then well, they'll never know. Cheers, Richard. You find my voice calming. Yeah, that's a very polite way of saying I've got a monotone. I appreciate that, though. It's good. Maybe I should do ASMR, like my daughter keeps suggesting I do. Like, you are now in a safe space, and I don't know why I suddenly became David Attenborough. David Attenborough, you know, the nature guy. Maybe I should do ASMR because they're massively popular, aren't they? Those channels. But gentle whispering or gentle whisper. She's like a millionaire, isn't she? Anyway, thank you. I appreciate that. My voice is calming. I'll take that as a compliment. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna round up, guys. It's at 10 to 9. I've got just enough time to make another coffee and make peace with the fact that I have to go to work. Autism ASMR is a growing category on YouTube. Yeah, I understand that completely. Um, but no, I'm not going to start an autism ASMR channel yet. How about being paid to read books for Audible or something similar? Uh, yeah, but my ADHD brain prevents me from reading books at an appropriate speed. My wife can read a book in a matter of hours. It takes me forever to read a book because I'm constantly linking that word with that word, and that word will spark a memory, and etc. etc. And I reread the same paragraph again and again, and then I just like, oh. So I love books, but I struggle to read them, and I believe that's because of my ADHD brain. But yeah, maybe I should go into Audible. So thank you all. I'm going to do a 3 to 1. Thank you so much for making this worthwhile. I'm amazed that people turn up. I always am, always will be, even when I'm massively popular like Mr. Beast. And there are a million people there, and I'd be like, "Oh, I didn't realize that so many people would turn up. I thought, I thought no one loved me." Um, yeah, I'd be pretending then, wouldn't I? Um, so thank you for making this worthwhile. Have a great day. If you are around in 10 hours, then might see you again. If you're not around in 10 hours because you've got something far more interesting and important to do, that's fine. I won't hold it against you. I'll do one of these, at least one more next year, 2025. So yeah, if I don't see you this evening, have a happy new year. Stay safe. Um, and yeah, email is on the YouTube description, autisticnotalien@gmail.com. So if you ever want to get in contact about anything, particularly if it's autism related, drop me a line and I shall leave you to it. Happy New Year, all. I'm going to do what I do when I phone my dad in Scotland, which is when I'm with the kids. Do a 3, 2, 1. It seems quite babyish. 3, 2, 1. End stream. Bye.